You believe when it comes to rocking we achieve such a pleasure for you to see. What's this show? I hear you shout. Rock and metal is what I'm talking about.
Hi, welcome to Rock and Metal Invasion. My name is Steve. Coming up on the show today, I'm doing a tribute to John Sykes and a tribute to Casey Chaos. Quite different music, but two people that have recently passed away that I am a big fan of. I like their music and wanted to talk about on my channel. So I'm going to start off with John Sykes. Now, John Sykes recently passed away, of course, and I've seen lots of tributes to him and to his music on a number of channels. So I won't go into too much detail. I also did a very quick short on my channel, just basically going through some of the records that he has featured on. But I just wanted to go through it again, really. One thing that I did make a mistake of when I did my short is I missed one of the records, one of the big ones that he plays on. And so I'll just make sure I rectify that today. So when I did my short, I showed the Tigers of Pantang. This is the best of. So he's not on all of these early Tigers of Pantang albums, but he does feature on Spellbound and on the Crazy Nights album. So those two albums, he is the guitarist. He also does a guitar solo for Love Potion #9 from the album The Cage, but by that stage he has moved on and he has joined Thin Lizzy, and that's the one I forgot to show on my short. Thunder and Lightning, which is a great album, and I'm not a Thin Lizzy expert. I don't have every Thin Lizzy album, but I do enjoy Thin Lizzy. But this is for some people known as the sort of the heavy metal Thin Lizzy album. And even look at the album cover, with the guitar and the sort of studded, leather glove coming up through the ground. It looks quite metal, doesn't it? The album title, Thunder and Lightning. So yeah, John Sykes comes in for this, which ends up being the final Thin Lizzy album. And there's some great songs on here. Cold Sweat, fantastic. Bad Habits, Baby Please Don't Go. Some really good songs. And John Sykes is just playing guitar, but he does have a songwriting credit for Cold Sweat, which is probably one of the best songs on the album. But otherwise, he's, I think, just there for the musicianship. Now, then after that dissolves, or ends how it ends, he then joins up with Whitesnake. Now, what's interesting, too, with the situation with Whitesnake is he joins when the band have already recorded the album. So, but they then get him to record guitars for the American mix. So this is the 2 LP anniversary remix. So I don't know how this would have worked, but anyway, because I know that some re-recordings happen when, these reissues happened. But anyway, this is so it talks about here the original Slide It In album, which, had the lineup that I guess had been around for a little while. I guess especially, Mick Moody on guitars. You got Cozy Powell on drums, Mel Galley also on guitars, John Lord on keyboards. So they recorded the album initially, and then they decided to go and do a US remix, and that's when John Sykes comes in. Neil Murray also comes in on bass, and I think Cozy Powell's still there on drums. But so it gets remixed, and so John Sykes does feature. If you've got the US mix of Slide It In fact, there's a picture of him here with David, and there's Neil Murray and Cozy Powell, and Love Ain't No Stranger American mix. So it's a 12-inch single. But this is the album he has a lot more of a hand in, and it ends up being Whitesnake's most successful album, 1987, self-titled, whatever you want to call it, massive album. Of course, it does actually have some songs that Whitesnake had previously put out. So, Here I Go Again and Crying in the Rain have previously been released under the name Whitesnake, but this is the John Sykes version, or a more sort of amped up version of those songs. It's still got it's definitely still bluesy, but a little bit, it's definitely got heavier. It's more of a hair metal type sound they're going for here, and of course image wise as well. So Unfortunately, though, for John Sykes, he plays on the album but then doesn't tour or feature in the music videos. And I guess a little bit like what happened to the previous people with Slide It In. But anyway, uh, massive album for him. Things don't work out though, and he ends up forming his own band, Blue Murder. Now I've gone on Rock Daydream Nation, and we did a really deep dive on that one with a few other people as well as Peter Kerr, and I think it's almost a 2 hour show, that one. And I like this album. I think if I remember when I recorded the show with Peter a couple of years ago, um, there's some songs I don't like, and yeah, that's still true. But the songs I do like, I really like, and his guitar tone, of course, as well. And of course, what's interesting too, he comes in and initially he's like looking for people that are going to be the vocalist. He's just going to play guitar. He nearly got Ray Gillen in the band at one point, who ends up going to Badlands. But in the end, and I think Tony Martin from Black Sabbath was also in the running, who has a songwriting credit on here. But he ends up doing the vocals, and it sounds great. He's actually quite a good vocalist. Yeah, and obviously you've got Bob Rock doing this is I think his first production job, and he does a fantastic job. Um, yeah, so you got Carmen Appice, you got Tony Franklin on the fretless bass there. So yeah, it was even labeled at the time a bit of a super group. Black Hearted Woman's my standout song from this album, which is the last song on the album. But I also really like Riot, the song Blue Murder. Billy's pretty good, and some of the other songs are growing on me definitely over time. They're not one of those ones that uh, you instantly necessarily like. It takes a bit of time, and I think it's interesting too that maybe that's why this album, even though people really love it now, didn't take off, because it's a bit of a slow burner. So it grows on you over time. It takes a bit of time. The singles were, I think, were Valley of the Kings and Jelly Roll, which are good songs, but maybe they're not the singles. And I think when I talked about this album on Rock Daydream Nation, that was, I think, some of the conversation uh, that's what we talked about, that perhaps this album was lacking a really big single. So anyway, he does actually end up doing a second album, and it's Nothing But Trouble. And so just to torment Dan a little bit more, I'll show the vinyl of this. So not an easy one to get, of course, on vinyl. It's a Korean pressing. That's the only pressing of this album, and it's a bit of a strange one because it's 1993, still on Geffen, and it's a different lineup. It's a different lineup pictured here, but I think there is also some people from the last album still featuring on this album. It's a bit of a combination, really. There are some good songs on here. I don't like this. I did a review of this album on my channel, so you can go and check that out. There's a cover of Ichiku Park, But Cry for Love, We'll Fall Down. They're really good songs. Save My Love was the song I played when I did the short. I just played the intro to that. So, yeah, if you want to know more about this album, go check out my review of it. But, yeah, no doubt, he was such a talented guy. Now, of course, that doesn't end there. He then goes on to put out some albums under his own name, John Sykes. And I think it's interesting that those kind of seem to have been forgotten about, when in reality, really, Blue Murder is John Sykes. But yeah, so I don't have any copies of those albums. Yeah, I think having heard them online, I've never really been in a great rush to go out and get them. Nothing wrong with them; they're not easy to get though necessarily, and not necessarily, they still would cost a little bit of money, especially unfortunately now that he's passed on. These things get even more valuable, don't they? But yeah, but there are solo albums that he put out. You wouldn't say he was lazy in the 90s. He was fairly productive, put out a few albums, actually, quite a few albums. Still worth checking out. And then, of course, he ends up rejoining Thin Lizzy and fronting Thin Lizzy. Scott Gorham comes in, I think, as well. There are some live recordings of that. Yeah, that happens. And then I don't know. He's been fairly quiet, I guess, over the last few years. There's been talks about a new album coming out, but it hasn't happened. And So there we go. So that's my little tribute to John Sykes. I know lots of channels and lots of other people uh, who are probably even bigger fans than me of John Sykes have um, done their own tribute. So that's just my little tribute. Now, next person I want to talk about is Casey Chaos, and I wasn't even sure if I was going to do this, but the fact that I'm doing a tribute for or talking about John Sykes, who's recently passed on, I also wanted to talk about Casey Chaos. Now, it's quite a separate sort of definitely almost a different genre, really, in a lot of ways, and definitely a different time. So, you know, uh, I know that Scott from the Pro Corner actually was in a band with Casey Chaos, and he did a really good tribute. So, again, it's not like I don't know how much more I can add. Casey did pass away at the end of December last year, so it's not like it's just happened. But I did want to mention it because I am a fan of him and his band Amen that put out 3 albums. I put out a combination of different things as well. So I'll just go through and show what I've got in my collection in regards to Casey Chaos. And like I say, there could be people switching off now because they're interested in John Sykes, but not so much Casey Chaos, and that's fine. But likewise, it could be the other way. You just fast forwarded to get to this part, so you wanted to hear about Casey Chaos. So so like I said, Scott from the Prog Corner talked about him, and things I didn't know actually that he was in a band with Casey in 1986, and they were in a band called Disorderly Conduct, which I don't have any of that material. I think I'm like a punk band. They put out 1 album, and then he ends up actually in a band called Christian Death, which I'm a little bit familiar with. It puts out or features on an album with them. But he forms the band Amen, and they put out an independent album, I think, around 1994. I don't have that one; that's pretty hard to get, actually. But the album that they're most well known for, and I do actually have it on vinyl because it was reissued on vinyl, is this self-titled album here. And it's coming out. It's produced by Ross Robertson. It's coming out around about the time that new metal's really popular, and of course Ross Robertson really well known for the work that he's done with Korn and other new metal bands. This is not new metal, but it's heavy. It's got some, there are some new metal riffs, I suppose, on there, but it's very much it's almost like punk metal. It's fast, it's furious, it's angry, and I really liked this when this came out. I was really into it. I thought this was really good art, basically, and so it's he's I really don't know the band lineup other than of course Casey on vocals, and so it was great that this was reissued on vinyl. But I'll show you the rest of everything I've got is on CD. Apart from there are some singles that were released on vinyl. Now, actually, just before that album came out, believe it or not, he featured on Vanilla Ice's album Hard to Swallow, and I think he does quite a bit of the songwriting. He does some vocals on here as well, and I quite like this album. But then I quite like a bit of the new metal stuff that was coming out. So I think it's around 1998. And this is also produced by Ross Robinson, so he's on that as well. But his second album is We Have Come for Your Parents. Now he switches labels here for this one. Is on Virgin, which I don't know why that happened, but I would have thought Roadrunner would have been a great label for him. Actually, I've also got the debut album on CD as well. This has got 4 bonus tracks on it also, which aren't on the vinyl, so it's kind of nice to have. I'm quite bit of a completist really when it comes to Amen. I was sort of trying to get everything I can. So yeah, I and of course originally this is what I had rather than the vinyl. So because there was an EP released prior to the album coming out, and this is what these bonus tracks are. Basically, the 4 songs from the EP. They put out a lot of material, though there's only 3 albums. There's a lot of unreleased material as well. So there's that, and then yes, there's We Have Come for Your Parents. Now this is the 2 CD edition, which is a Australian tour edition. Again, it's just got lots of extra tracks, some live tracks. They could be at least a whole album, maybe even a double album's worth of sort of rare or unreleased songs that they could put out. They even, in fact, I've even got, and I just put it at the back of another copy of We Have Come for Your Parents. There's a CD called Join or Die. So here it is there. I just put it at the back of We Have Come for Your Parents, but that's just got a whole lot of unreleased songs on it as well. This is just as good. Again, it's produced by Ross Robinson, very similar to the first album. Really good stuff. I saw the band live when they performed at the Big Day Out here in New Zealand, in Auckland. They performed it, I think it was like midday or something like that, and some of the people were still coming um, into the ground, and but very ferocious performance, really fantastic. And that was the main reason I was there, was to see Amen. But it was quite, at midday. It's not necessarily the time you'd be expecting to see a band like that, but they were awesome, really fantastic stuff. There is a live album as well. This is Gun of a Preacher Man. Yeah, I'm not sure when this came out. Here we go. Recorded on the 1st of February 2003. So I guess it will have songs from the first and second album. It's good stuff. Yeah, Casey would throw himself all around the place, and he was known for sort of, injuring himself from time to time, or even drawing blood or things like that. It's punk rock. Definitely very punk rock, and I think he was very inspired by punk or hardcore. The third album, it was a little disappointing for me, I have to say. This is Death Before Music. I don't think this is a Ross Robinson production. Yeah, no, this one's actually produced by Casey. Yeah, but a couple of the guys from System of a Down, I think, helped with the songwriting, or at least I know that he has a song on a System of a Down. Casey Coase helped with the songwriting for a song that is on a System of a Down album. And but yeah, so that's the third album, and then there's been talk for a long time. They're on Columbia for this one. It's been talk for a long time of a new album, and I saw them on the Henry Rollins show. Um, they were doing new material. Sounded like they were going to put out an album, but because he's never, I think, really had a set band, at least a stable band. It's sort of, I don't know how much stability he's had. He also put out. He was in a band called Scum. Not really my scene, but a little more sort of black metal kind of sound. I checked it out. There was a song or two on there I didn't mind, but for me, it's Amen, and it's those. Well, the two albums I've shown you, not actually the first one, because the first one's an independent release from '94. So the second and the third Amen albums, that's where it's at for me. Fantastic stuff. And I'll just show you. I've got some singles on vinyl. Too Hard to Be Free. These singles are both from the third album. We've come for Your Parents. Too Hard to Be Free, and again, it's got a B side here, Europe Live from the BBC sessions, and picture disc, 7-inch picture disc, The Price of Reality, and a B side, Motorcade Horizon. Yeah, so there we go. And like I said, it's been fairly quiet over the last few years. I've been sort of hoping, maybe Amen will make a comeback, or Casey Chaos will put something out, but it hasn't happened. And then, yeah, it's sad to hear that he passed away at the end of last year. So there we go. Two tributes on today's show: a tribute to John Sykes and a tribute to Casey Chaos. All right, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed that. If you did and you like this type of content, please hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. And if you would like to comment about either Casey, John Sykes, or both of them, leave a message in the comments. All right, that's it for today. We'll catch you later. See ya.